Hey everyone, Sean Smith here with Dedicated Commercial Recovery in Roseville, Minnesota. I'm the founder and CEO. Continuing our vlog interview series with my friend Korey Dean. Korey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now, Korey's the founder of the Man Up Club, who's a partner with Dedicated. So, Korey, if you could just give people maybe a little bit of background on you and how we get to the Man Up Club and us working together.
Well, I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and raised in a small town called Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Population probably about 17,000 people. I grew up like really poor. Didn't know who my father was, but I found that I was a really good football player. And went through school, became a blue chip athlete in the state of Missouri, and connected with some mentors who really spoke into my life. And from there, I had no aspirations of going to college. They tutored me, talked me into going to school. I wanted to get an athletic scholarship. They taught me the importance of having an academic scholarship. And long story short, man, I ended up being able to pick from probably about 15 colleges as to which one I wanted to go to on an academic scholarship. So I ended up going to St. John's University, starting out Division III up here in Minnesota, near St. Cloud in Collegeville. Played there for a year in football. Claim to fame as I broke their touchdown scoring record. Still hold their touchdown scoring record, by the way, so ain't nobody finna beat that. Five touchdowns in one half.
Wow.
And then I wanted to go on to fulfill my dreams of playing Division I college football. So I went to University of Louisville after that, and was there for a while and met another mentor. But then I had tragedy. My son and his mom had a tragic car accident. He was hit by an 18-wheeler a couple of days before Christmas, left her paralyzed, amnesia, didn't remember who I was, in a coma for 3 months. But by the grace of God, man, my son didn't get a scratch. And while I was on my way basically to NFL, overnight I became a single father. So I ended up dropping out of the University of Louisville, moving back to Minnesota, taking a job to help build a charter school called Learning Adventures Middle School, which was in Midway at that time, and raising my son as a single father. And basically helping kids realize that I wasn't able to help kids outside of school, which was between 8:30 and 2:30. And so then that's when I decided that I wanted to go into youth work. So I went back to University of Minnesota, got a double degree in sociology and youth development studies, and then started working an after school program called Man Up Club. It was just an after school program. And I was an advocate for about 400 to 500 African American kids and just basically assessed their needs. And from that program development, I developed the Man Up Club. And so, here we are today. We've been around since 2012 and been a nonprofit since 2015. And just basically speaking into the lives of young men.
Yeah, and how we came to meet was through a mutual connection, and I found myself sitting in a room with you and Tony Dungy, Kevin Warren,
all those important people,
and I'm like Flip Matthew in the room here. You know what I mean? And I just remember being so impressed with you and your wife Mariah. It was just the way you carried yourself, what you spoke about, the passion you spoke with. The words you chose to use, it was just, it was something where immediately I was drawn to what you were doing, and I think that's been the case here. And part of what I hope people do is look into the Man Up Club here, especially if you're from the Minneapolis area, you're trying to make an impact in the inner cities of St. Paul, Minneapolis. Korey has been a key leader through a lot of what's gone on here, especially in the last couple of years, but even before that. But it all. I think really that going nationwide was brought to light because of some of the unfortunate events that have been plaguing us here in Minneapolis. But
sure.
What could you maybe tell us a little bit about what are the different areas of Man Up Club? What are you doing right now as it stands?
Yeah, so the Man Up Club, we mentor in 4 areas. Those areas are life skills, social skills, academic discipline, and civic responsibility. Those are our 4 areas. And we have 3 main goals within our organization. The 3 goals are to get young men to graduate from high school, to keep them out of the prison pipeline, and to get them to go into college or have a trade after high school. So our organization services young men that are between the ages of 12 and 24. And so we do a multiplicity of things. So we'll share meals with them. We do one-on-one mentoring, and we do group mentoring. We take them on field trips, whether that's, within their local community or just outside down the street. But also, during the Obama administration, we took 12 guys to the White House and to the Smithsonian's and to the Department of Justice. So we do things like that. We also do trauma healing circles. We have an annual music festival that we do. That's an outreach to the local community, to the inner city community. It's called God Flow, and we do that every year. We'll be doing that in 2022 on July 2nd. We have a suit up program where we provide young men suits. We have a tutoring program. We give haircuts, men. We just basically we serve as young men basically around our mission. And our mission is basically to develop young men into holistic men of character. And that's basically, what we're about. And, we meet with them on a weekly basis. We have different cohorts around the city where we'll mentor anywhere between 12 to 15 young men at a time. And we do that all throughout the metro area.
Mm-hmm. I don't think most people would refer to it as keeping kids out of the prison pipeline. And the reason I say that is because I know that's something you talk about, and I know that's something that within certain sects or group of our communities, we're talking about that. But I don't think that's a large enough nationwide narrative, especially as it pertains to the inner city and supporting programs. I mean, we have huge companies that are here succeeding in our communities and relying on the talent of our communities. I'd like to see them stepping up more and doing more for programs to stop things like that. And that's something that I'm passionate about, trying to give back, because I know what you're doing and I know the impact of you're serving people, you're giving to them, you're mentoring them, you're giving them not just a hand out, but a hand up by showing them how to do those things. I've gone before you, let me reach back and help. And I know some of them are coming under scrutiny for not being more proactive in the communities that they're doing business and succeeding in. So with that, if you could just kind of talk, what is the future? What are some of the future hopes for Man Up Club? And or maybe even given the fact that we have a large presence in the commercial banking industry nationwide, but also especially here, that could help, what are you trying to do going from here? How are you trying to grow?
I think the first thing that people need to understand is that we're a grassroots organization. So we're connected to people directly in the community. We're connected directly to kids who are underprivileged. We're not an organization where when your funds pass through or your support pass through financially, that it's going to be misplaced funds. It's going directly to the work of what we do to serve young kids and keeping them off the streets or helping them with their education or life coaching them in general. And so everything for us is hands-on. The future for us is, my goal, first of all, is to have a facility near North Minneapolis. I'm thinking about 3,500 square feet. That would consist of a state-of-the-art music studio, some common space for us to be able to share, and it's a safe place for young men to be able to come and congregate, and also a place for business leaders such as yourself and other mentors who can come into that facility and connect directly, with young men, sit down and have a meal in that space with young men and what have you. I would like to have a space where I can invite police into that space where they can come in when they're off duty and have real, genuine, authentic conversations with young men of color in their community outside of conflict or on the heels of an arrest. A space that has office space for administration to be done, but also a recreational space where guys can, have a little fun and do the things they like to do, such as play video games or play pool or racquetball or things like that. And then also that space would consist of tutors that are in the community who would want to come and help, tutor young men and things like that, and have panel discussions and community forums, but that a place that would be ran by the Man Up Club. Because when you think of the inner city here, especially here in the Twin Cities, and just take North Minneapolis, for example, there really are no places that young people can go to and feel safe, and more importantly, have a sense of belonging. And that's what we want to be able to offer. And so right now, that's what we're currently fundraising for, and that's kind of what our main focus is. But we also have a long-term goal to have Man Up Clubs in basically every inner city across America, because the issues that we face here, whether that's a spinoff of the murder of George Floyd or not, all inner cities face the same issues of poverty, crime, and violence, educational disparities and things like that. And so with the Man Up Club, we're addressing all of those issues. And one thing that I think that's important for me to mention is that 80% of the guys that are in our program, African-American guys, 80% of them are fatherless. And so that's a huge focus for our organization. We have to be father figures to these guys because they don't have fathers in the home. And unfortunately, the culture, and when I talk about culture, I'm talking about urban youth culture. They have this ideology that it's normal not to have a father in the home. And they really don't understand the detriment of that. Mm-hmm. And so we find that that's something that, we can provide to help them develop into becoming, responsible young men.
Yep. And I think so much as some of the things you're talking about are things that people may hear, whether it be on national news or whatever, but there's a lot that you say that as I talk to people about these issues, that you just don't know if you're not in it. It's the grassroots side of it. If you're not in it and you don't understand, you just hear a statistic and it just fades right by. But when you eat, sleep, and breathe that, right? Yeah. And then you have such a greater understanding to have greater impact. And then it's just really resources. And that's where we love to come, along, partner with both the music festival and Man Up, try to do more mentorship and things like that. And, I hope to grow and do that. I just really wanted to challenge other business leaders to do the same. Because I think business has the greatest opportunity to change the world, but it has to start taking responsibility, not just for its immediate stakeholders, but really the shareholders in the community and the people that are, whether it's directly or indirectly, allowing their business to succeed in their communities and their surrounding areas. And they have the profit margin to do it, mm-hmm. right? Yeah, sure. But they've got to lean into these issues, and talk is cheap. It's kind of, for me, it's putting your money where your mouth is. Well, type of stuff.
Let me pick up on that, because something that's very important that I really want to challenge business owners with, just from this vantage point, because their vantage point is different. A lot of times when you're supporting an organization financially or what have you, there's a lot of red tape for us to actually flow down to small nonprofits such as the Man Up Club, and it becomes a cumbersome process. The issue with that, though, is when you're an organization like our organization and you're grassroots and you're serving kids directly, there is always a sense of urgency. And I can't communicate that to business owners enough, mm-hmm. about the sense of urgency. Because while we're going through the cumbersome process of funds flowing down, unfortunately for the work that we do and the population and the demographic that we serve, we get young men in our community who get killed and who get murdered. I've already had 3 young men who are in my organization that have already been murdered. One 16, one 17, and one 19. And in the course of those guys who have already been murdered, who we really could have helped if we had the proper resources, we probably could have saved their lives. Mm-hmm. So what really is dear to my heart, and where in an area where I struggle, is I would have conversations with business owners who want to help, but they're so slow. And that, I'm just being honest, they're so slow to the point that if I have a kid who's alive, when they say at the time in which they say they want to help, but then that kid gets killed or that kid gets sent to prison or what have you, that's one of those things that really weighs on your heart, because it's like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it now. If we're gonna service them, let's service them. Let's give them the resources that they need, because unfortunately, young African American males in the inner city really don't have a lot of time, and that's just the reality. If you talk to the young men in my organization, what they'll tell you is that they don't expect to live to see 25 years old. So with that mentality, that tells you the sense of urgency. Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do as far as, so think about teaching young men about long-term planning. So maybe, when you and I come along, we may deal in 5-year plans. What are you going to do for the next 5 years, that, and that doesn't work in a city community with young Black males.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do next week?
Right.
And they're looking to me and other leaders and mentors to say, okay, well, how are you going to help me right now? Because right now I'm struggling. Right now I can't eat. Right now I'm taking care of my mom and who's a single parent and what have you. And so it's like, okay, I need a job. So it's not just about always flowing money down. Of course, we need those resources, but at the same time, when you talk about organizations and companies, job placement is huge, because if you put a kid in job placement, then they can.
Well, one of the things that Dedicated has been really focused on that job deal is that one of the things we learned, because we thought we were diverse in a lot of ways, and when we had to spin up about 60 new people, and then it was just get people from anywhere. We just needed 60 folks for a temporary project, but in doing that, we realized that we had to pull talent from the different places than we always went. So like these kids aren't posting their resume on Indeed, right? You know what I mean? And so, people talk a lot about diversity and inclusion in these things, but then they keep doing the same things. And it's the same things that like, well, I want to help in the inner city, but then there's no action there, or if they, like you said, if it's too slow, it's too late. Thank you for coming on. I always kind of love to end with something a little bit, kind of off the cuff, but what would be something, though, that maybe someone who even knows you or doesn't know you, something that they wouldn't know about you?
I don't think that they would know that I'm, like, super afraid of heights.
Super afraid of heights?
Big time.
So we're not going skydiving anytime soon?
I really, really, really want to do that, but I'm just so afraid. I can't even fathom it. I went to the Dells a couple of weeks ago, and I have a 16-year-old son, and I wanted to spend time with him. But I didn't, he pushed me to do this zip line. Mm-hmm. That was like, what's the weight limit? I don't know, man. I'm just afraid of heights. I'm trying to get over that. I'm like really trying, but it's tough.
I love it. I almost want to like take you somewhere to do something just to see what you react to. But well, thanks again for being on, Korey. I really, again, my hope is and Dedicated partnering, and we're always looking for ways to spin that up more, and,
sure.
And we stay in constant communication, which is great. But I also hope to inspire the business community out there, especially in the financial community. Right, they're holding a lot of the cards.
Yeah.
And they can choose to start focusing on being significant to others, mm-hmm. and by investing in grassroots organizations that are really having an impact. And then I know there's kids that have been a part of Man Up Club it's changed their life. Mm-hmm. And absolutely. If my challenge is the same thing for me in Haiti, is that when you've been down into the third world and you've seen a child that looks like they survived the Holocaust from Germany, only they're a small little black child in the Caribbean that weighs as much as a newborn infant but is over a year old, mm-hmm. and that the food that you're providing is going to that, mm-hmm. and then you juxtapose that to if that was your child,
right.
You would move heavens and earth,
mm-hmm.
right, to do that. And I just, for me, this is a personal thing where I project that as if this was my child, what would I do? How to try to use my business resources? And it's the same thing. We can do that. And the benefits of that are twofold. They're the soul-filling kind. When you can have a direct impact, when you can change lives.
Yeah.
And that's the side that really motivates me. But I also acknowledge the fact that there is a business side of it, is that when you do good work, whatever you put in the ground is what grows. You plant corn, you're going to get corn, right? So if you want to have impact, especially in the areas of inner city youth, invest in it. Invest your time, invest your energy, invest your resources into that. You'll get that return, but then you get to share in that benefit.
Yeah.
And when you put good out there, good's going to come back. Whether you're a business owner, you're a leader, you're an executive in a bank or something like that. So I hope everyone has really paid attention to the possible impact they can have with Korey here and with the Man Up Club. Thank you for being on the show, for working with Dedicated, believing in us as we believe in you guys.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll have you back on, and maybe next time we have you back on, we could interview some of the kids as well. I think that would be great.
That's good. I'd love to get people our website, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's themanupclub.org, and you can connect with us by calling us at 612-642-1929, or you can email me directly at info@themanupclub.org.
Absolutely, and I'm also happy to make any of those introductions. We'll post that in the link below. And again, Korey, thank you for being on.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, please like, subscribe, share this one, spread it out there. That drives up the algorithm on social media. It gets the word out more on how we can have a greater impact here in the local Twin Cities area, and hopefully at some point nationwide. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and God bless.